All right, welcome to a special edition of Hoops Tracker. Today we have special guest Chris Braketa, head coach at Ralston Valley. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Chris, it's been really fun. This is your second time around at Ralston Valley, but you played at South Dakota School of Mines. You graduated from Pomona. You grew up here. Talk a little bit about that transition a little bit earlier in your college career and then coming back and now coaching in the same area where you grew up.
Yeah, it was kind of a random path actually. I went to Pomona High School, graduated, got a basketball scholarship up to South Dakota to play. Unfortunately, got injured, so I transferred back to Colorado School of Mines. Wasn't able to play there because the injury happened again. But kind of was on the engineering path, not looking at teaching, coaching, anything like that. And then my youngest brother was actually going to school at Ralston Valley. And the head coach at the time was an old JV coach when I was at Pomona High School, Mitch Conrad.
Right.
And I kind of went up to him just because I was kind of interested in just helping out with like a feeder team or something like that, just to get back into basketball. And he asked, well, what about if you join our high school staff? And so I did. And then was on staff when we won the state title in 2003 with Nick Fazikis, obviously really one of the best to come out of Colorado. And then that honestly got me switching my career path completely. I still graduated from Colorado School of Mines, but I went back to Colorado Christian, got a teaching degree and got my master's in education. And then got hired on here at Ralston Valley, and that's 21 years in the making now. So I've been here for a while.
Wow. So you got bit by the coaching bug and you switched from engineering
I
to
did.
go teacher so you could coach later.
I did. I worked as an engineer for a little bit. And it was okay. It just wasn't like that passion. When I started
Right.
coaching, I just that passion I had for just teaching kids, and yeah, it was basketball, but it was more than that. It was all the other stuff that I was real passionate about. And my wife was a teacher,
Right.
and she said, "Just hey, you're so good with the kids and stuff. Why don't have you ever thought about being a teacher?" I was like, well, I really love this coaching, so I kind of went back, got a master's degree in teaching, and then kind of completely switch gears. And I love teaching kids, whether it's coaching, teaching.
Mhm.
Just love working with kids.
No, that's great. Talk now, when you guys won that first state championship at Ralston in 2003, you guys had only been open for 3 years. So to get that collection of kids to do that at such a young high school is pretty phenomenal. Talk a little bit about that team and what was special about them.
Obviously, having a great player like Nick Fazikis was huge. A Division I player, and then he was All American at Nevada. But it was a very close knit team. I mean, it's 20 years ago, and I still remember how close all of those guys were.
Mhm.
And just working and playing with each other. The coaching staff was all on board. Just one of those unique teams where it just fit the puzzle of guards and bigs, and having a special player like Nick Fazikis, we still had the role players that were really, really good. So it was a kind of a 2 years in the making. I think we lost in the semifinals the year before that, and then came back with a vengeance the following year, and yeah, got it done in that state championship.
Wow, that's huge. Now, let's switch gears because as I've been talking to a lot of coaches, they're looking at Ralston Valley as the team to beat this year. Um, you know, you guys are loaded. Obviously, you have your two sons, Tanner and Caden, but you got Frank, you got Zeke Andrews, you got Samson Wright, but you have a whole slew returning almost your whole team from last year.
Mhm.
And most of you guys played really well this summer with B&B. Talk a little bit about this year's team because this year's team is going to be special.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of compares a little bit to that 2003, how tight of a group we are.
Hmm.
Even though we have mixed in some juniors and we are junior heavy, the seniors, Tanner, with Hayes Gatlin as a senior coming over from out in Basalt. It was one of those after we lost in the to Eagle Crest in the Sweet 16, the guys came to me the following week and said, "Can we start working now?" And I've never had a team like that. It's usually, oh, we need weeks off, month off. They want to get going the following week. And so we were doing workouts. They were doing some strength training, and it was just right away how close they were with each other. And then as soon as we started playing this summer with RV, I mean, we shared the ball. Almost the best I've ever had as a team before. Everybody trusted each other, turning down okay shots to get better shots. It was just the connection we had, and the connection we have off the floor with those guys too, is really, really big with this group.
Yeah, it was interesting going to the CU team camp, going to the Metro team camp, going to the UNC team camp, and you guys were just rolling over everybody that early. Talk a little bit more about kind of your basketball philosophy and your training program, what you guys want the guys to be doing. You know, you talked about the weight room, a lot of
Mhm.
basketball coaches avoid it, but talk a little bit about your team culture and how you want to, you know, what is Ralston Valley basketball?
Yeah, and I think we always looked at it as, even when these guys were younger in this team of juniors and seniors, I never try to run a program where it's just about the varsity team.
Mhm.
It's all the way from the varsity down to our freshman team. So 1 through 35 or 30, how many kids we have. And we really concentrate on building a program and a culture um, of, yeah, we want to compete, we want to work hard, but the unselfishness and being really, really good people, good in the classroom, respectful in our community and in the school. And they carry that along onto the basketball floor. And we always have this thing, it's like we call it compete every day.
Mhm.
And compete every day doesn't just mean on the floor. It means in the classroom. It means being more than just an athlete and just being okay with being okay. We don't want that, no matter what you're doing. So this was just it's a group that has really bought into that ever since their freshman year. They want to go out there and compete against each other. We have some good open gyms and stuff where they get after, even though they're all good friends, they get after each other. They yell at each other. They're going at it. It's out on you. This is a foul. This is. But then at the end of the day, they go out and they all go to McDonald's afterwards, or all go over to somebody's house together. Where they were all at a lot of them were at a haunted house together a couple weeks ago. So it's a really close group of kids, and they're a special group. Our I guess if you look at those 5 kids that you mentioned, they all of them have over a 4.0 GPA, um,
That's awesome.
which is unbelievable. It's almost unheard of. So they really do take that we're going to do everything to the best of our ability, not just on the floor.
No, that's great. Talk a little bit more about kind of your off-season program, the weight room. Like, I mean, it, you have two sons that are extremely gifted in basketball and athletics, but talk a little bit more about the weight room and how
Uh-huh.
that is a factor in what you guys are doing. And you know, are you guys in 2 days a week, 3 days a week?
Yeah, so the weight room is huge. I mean, we work out after the season. The kind of whoever wants to come kind of right after in the spring, but then starting in the summer, um, we lift 4 days a week here at RV. So we lift kind of early morning, but we do a skill workout where we're doing all basketball skills in the gym for an hour, and then right after that we transition to the weight room.
Mhm.
And we do some plyo stuff. We do the lifting. We do all that just to get our bodies um, so they can perform at their best. I really am a big advocate for lifting. My brother-in-laws both being college basketball player, Michael Ball being the head coach at Metro State for a while, Stephen Ball being an All-American at College School of Mines. They were such advocates for the weight room as well.
Yeah.
So just that whole the whole building not just the basketball skills, but building an athlete as well. The injury prevention and all that stuff we do ankle stability stuff. We do a lot of different things just to make sure their bodies are able to take a season grind. And even if they're playing football and they're multi-sport kids, it helps them. It really does with whatever they're doing.
No, that sounds great. Now, we did bring up a little bit, and let's talk about this. Your two sons play on the team. How do you handle that? How do you handle the father son coach player relationship, and how has that developed over the years?
You know, I love it. To be honest, it's very special to me that you get to coach your kids. They're it's one of those where I try as much as I can to be a coach when I need to be a coach,
Mhm.
coaching at practice, coaching at games, and then trying to shut it down as much as I can afterwards, and
Mhm.
just being dad again. Um, and then maybe let my wife come in and be the coach after that. She played college basketball too, so she's all that. So I do as much as I can as a coach from a coaching standpoint. Obviously, I'm probably harder on them
Right.
than a lot of the kids. And there's some expectations and stuff there. But I try as much as I can to draw the line between being a coach and being a father,
Right.
and still supporting them off the floor and not bringing successes and failures on the court home after a
Mhm.
game or after a practice or something like that. So it's been honestly it's been a blessing. It's been really cool to coach my two sons so far.
No, that's great. It's interesting because I was talking to Jeff Kloster up at Longmont, and we had that same conversation when he was coaching Caden. There's
Yep.
only a handful of coaches that get this opportunity,
Yeah.
and everybody, it's kind of a special, you know, you have to set boundaries,
Yeah.
but
For
at the
sure.
end of the day, you're a dad before you're a coach.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
it makes,
Yes.
you know,
Interesting that you mentioned Coach Kloster. When I first started, I actually had a conversation about him with him about coaching your son. And
mhm,
he just had some great advice. He said, obviously, you can't move them up because they're your son, but you can't also hold them back based off of perception or anything like that because they're
mhm.
your son either. So it was actually really nice talking to Coach Kloster back 7, 8 years ago now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I look at the landscape and, other than Joe Ortiz and Rudy Carey, Klosser's been around longer than both of those guys, I
Yeah,
think. And it's just amazing to see and how he runs his program. And what's interesting about Longmont's program, they don't have these All-Americans. They don't have these 6'8", 6'9", studs coming out, but yet they're in the Final Four an awful lot, a
yeah,
lot more than most other teams, and that team culture and stuff. It's
yeah,
great. And he's a great mentor,
yeah.
which brings me, who are some mentors in your life that have really helped you as a coach and helped you shape your ways as a coach as you look back?
I think coach under Mitch Conrad, when back in the day when we were the state title and all that kind of stuff. But he was a great coach. Just kind of um, looking at, again, that it's more because he coached his son also here, and just the always constant that it's more than just about basketball.
Mhm.
And if you just focus on the basketball, you're going to be an okay coach. It's building those
Mhm.
relationships off the floor, on the floor,
Mhm.
and being more a part of the kids' lives rather than just be an X's and O's and this stuff. So,
Right.
Mitch Conrad was really big. I do have a really good relationship with Dave Eicher.
Mhm.
Coached at Columbine for a long time, played at SMU. He still does our announcing.
Mhm.
So he's a big mentor to me because I can reach out and I can talk to him about a lot of different things.
Mhm.
And so that's one of them that just he means a lot to me because we can talk about because he's been in that grind
Mhm.
and been there. And then again, my two brother-in-laws, Michael and Stephen Ball.
Oh,
Um, just I mean, the family conversations we have is it's 99% basketball. I mean, we're always talking, we're always doing stuff, and seeing Michael at Metro and just all those little things and all little pointers and yes, the X's and O's, but then just treating kids with respect and just all those little things that go a long ways other than just the basketball part. So Michael and Steven have had a big role in that also.
no, that's great. Now, this last summer, this whole last year, you started that whole recruiting process, well, probably started 2 years ago with Tanner.
Mm-hmm.
As a coach and as a parent, what are some things that you learned through that recruiting process? And you're going to start, right? You're continuing that with Caden, and so talk a little bit about what you learned through that recruiting process to share with some of the parents and even some of the athletes, that you learned at going through this.
Yeah, I think having since I have the two sons, Tanner and Caden, it started earlier for Tanner.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit later for Caden, we just continue to preach and just all the visits and that stuff we go on, that every kid's path is different.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be exactly like Caden doesn't have to have a path just like Tanner. Um, it's trying to find your own path and playing at a level that you can have success.
Right.
I think asking a lot of questions when you go on the visits, things that you don't even think about as a high school kid, like what do you want to study?
Right.
Um, it's more than just about athletics. You got to find a spot that has athletics, academics, and a social piece also. And I think going through it with Tanner early on, we didn't even think too much about like the social part of it also.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of going through with the North Dakota and UNC is they both had kind of a social atmosphere too that we could see him fitting in. And so I think it's a combination of those three things, the academics, the athletics, and the social, and then just finding your own path with players. I mean, so many kids compare themselves on social media and all that, and constantly comparing to others. But it's finding what you do and finding your own path and being okay with that. So
Mm-hmm.
teaching that to Caden along the way has been really, really big. That your path is different. You're a good player too. You're not Tanner.
Right.
You're Caden.
Right.
And so that has been really big, kind of learning from Tanner that we bring on to Caden. So
What I guess what was one of the biggest things that stood out to the boys on these visits, um, that you guys maybe had some conversations with? And obviously having Michael and Steven in your back court uh,
yeah,
is really a huge advantage because they were on the other side of that, right?
yeah,
They were coaching in college, they were recruiting the kids.
yeah.
But what was some of the big things that stood out to like Tanner and even Caden doing these visits, going and just seeing some things?
I think the number one for Tanner and Caden's is getting that too. It's the relationship with the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a head coach, it's the assistant, it's your position coach. It's
Mm-hmm.
finding that do I have like a safe space to go to a coach and ask a question? If I have a problem off the floor, if I
Mm-hmm.
have anything that I need other than basketball, do I feel comfortable enough going to all the coaches or the head coach or your position coach, whatever it is, and finding that you need that relationship with the coaches. So
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the things Michael mentioned also, coaching at Metro. And when we did the home visits with UNC and North Dakota, both Michael and Steven came to the home visits and had dinner with the coaching staffs and had dinner with us. And they asked a lot of interesting questions too. And just looking at the town, looking at are there other things when you're not doing basketball? What else? You need that kind of away from basketball time, and what are you going to do? And
Mm-hmm.
so looking at things that we didn't think about, and I don't know if Tanner thought about either. And so them coming to the home visits was really, really valuable because they had questions that we didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Michael asked a lot of questions about transfer portal and just some different things that we didn't think a whole lot about. So having him in the background was very valuable for us, my wife and I, but especially for Tanner.
Well, and everybody in your family seems to have played college basketball, including Michael's wife, Amy,
Amy, yep.
and so, but you bring up a great point, looking for a place not only where you can fit, but your path is going to be different than somebody else's path. And the portal, and that's a great thing to bring up in a recruiting conversation because from what we see, the portal is going to start tapering down now that all the
Mhm.
COVID kids are gone,
Yep.
but there's some coaches that they live in the portal. So maybe if I go there, I may not be, I might be bouncing out in the portal. And, those relationships with your
Mhm.
coaches are key and helping. I think one of the biggest challenges for young people, you and I are grown adults, and maybe we have a different set of lenses on that we can see certain things, knowing a recruiting visit is a sales pitch,
Hmm.
and making sure that the person behind there really does care about the player
Yeah.
and their development and where their role is.
Yeah.
And having Stephen and Michael ask that question about the portal, I'm sure it was something like, well, how frequently are you guys looking in the portal, and are you guys going to recruit over the other recruits that you have? Because you and I both know if you're not winning, you could be out of a job.
Yeah. That's their job for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And the fortunate thing with North Dakota and UNC, I think both staffs were awesome. North Dakota
Yeah.
staff is unbelievable. You did feel the connection with both those staffs, that they were true and they were honest, and they never guaranteed Tanner anything. You're going to have to work for everything you get. But he did have trust that they were saying the right thing. So both of those staffs, North Dakota and UNC, were unbelievable.
Now, I'm a big fan of Steven and Houston up at UNC, and they are very, very relational.
Hmm.
Uh, I've been very impressed at practices, watching how the development with the younger players, how they talk. Um, it's very powerful. And I think, like you brought up earlier, with a lot of these coaches, you need to, athletes need to figure out, like, can I trust this coach? And parents need to figure out, I'm going to hand my son or my daughter over to this coach for the next 4 years.
For
Would I
sure.
trust them with
Yeah.
that? You know, and I and I think a lot of the kids, like you said, they want to play, and basketball is at the forefront of their
Yeah.
mind, but they don't understand that, well, one day basketball is going to be over. Like you
Yeah.
found out your freshman or sophomore year in college. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I got injured. I'm not going to risk other things.
Yeah.
I need I need to move on.
Yeah.
Uh,
For sure.
so yeah, no, these are huge points. I hope parents are taking notes, and even athletes, and thinking, what was one of the biggest things with Tanner, like his biggest criteria in a school?
It was the relationship piece. I mean, he up at UNC, they actually give him like 8 factors, and to rank them. And one, like it was, I can't remember all 8, but it was relationships with coaches, it was skill development, it was uh, facilities, NIL money. Like there were different factors, and he went over. I don't know how many times he visited with UNC over the last couple of years. Every time they would go through that with him. And every time it was number one was that relationship piece, um,
Mm-hmm.
and then the skill development. And I think when he went up on his official visit with UNC, Coach Smiley took hours with him and sat and watched film with him, about guys that have been in their program that they compared to Tanner, and then watched some of Tanner's film. And we're very honest with them. They said, "Hey, you do this really well. Here's also what you need to work on." And for Tanner, that was huge. Not
Mm-hmm.
just say, "Hey, you're fine, you're good. We love you. We want. Hey, here's stuff that you can work on
Right.
also." And Tanner soaks that up, and that meant a ton for Tanner.
No, that's awesome. I mean, these are great conversations to have, because not everybody has been through this process.
Mhm.
Not everybody knows how this process rolls. And to be able to see coaches go that extra mile. I mean, that's one of the things I like about Steve and Houston, is their relationship based.
Yeah,
You can just tell it right off the bat. I mean,
yeah,
Houston's been in Colorado forever, and he knows
yep,
everybody.
yeah,
Uh, and he seems to be related to everybody too.
yeah,
Uh, but it's a great compliment to the coaches and the men that they've become, and that's the type of program that they want to set.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And Tanner had that feel when he went out with the players and stuff, and that's what they talked about was their relationship with with each other as players, but then their relationship with the coaches as well, and
Mhm.
that meant a lot. Yeah, for Tanner for sure.
Now I've seen, I mean, Caden's getting offers, a lot of RMAC stuff early on, but we look forward to watching his growth and see what
Hmm.
happens in a year or a year and a half, and see where
Yeah.
he lands. Now you mentioned you got a third girl, boy.
So we have a eighth grade boy, and then we have actually a sixth grade girl. So we have four.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So there's a
Yep.
couple more braketas coming up through the Ralston Valley system that we'll keep
Yep.
an eye out for.
Yep. For sure.
Hey, Chris, this has been great. Thank you. One thing I did want to ask before we jump off, there's a lot of parity in 6A
For
right
sure.
now. And I think, as I've been talking with coaches, there could be one of any 10 teams as they get hot. And you saw last year, I mean, I don't think anybody picked Valor to win, but
Yeah.
they clicked at the right time with
We really did.
Cole and Coach Platt did a great job for his first year. And it was just really interesting. But in your mind, what's that parity? What's that parity do for Colorado basketball? And who are some of I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but who are some of your top teams that you think are in that top 10?
Yeah, I mean it is. It's really nice just to have some parity across the board for sure. I mean, we loaded up our non-conference schedule and trying to play some of those teams I thought were going to be in that top 10. Smoky Hill, Mountain Vista, Thunder Ridge, Chaparral, Broomfield. So I think there's a number of teams that can definitely compete. We had the pleasure of playing Mountain Vista, Brian Wood. I know Brian Wood pretty well. A
Mm-hmm.
couple times over the summer. They have a great team. Smoky Hill has a great team. We played Chaparral with the young kids. They have a really good team. So Eagle Crest will still be there, and even Valor still. I mean, Cole Scher is a heck of a player. So
Yes.
Valor is still going to be really, really good because I love Cole Scher's game. I think he's a great player in Colorado. So I do think there's quite a few. I mean, 10 plus teams, like you said, that could definitely make a run, get hot at the right time, and you never know.
Yeah, I think this season is going to be one of the more fun seasons. I remember last year that Thunder Ridge team was really loaded,
Yeah,
but Valor, I mean, no one expected Valor to beat Smoky in the semis and then go on and to win, but
yeah,
the team gets hot. Um, and you see that also on the girls' side
yeah,
too.
for
And
sure.
5A has a lot of parity. Um, I'm surprised that Resurrection Christian was able to drop down to 3A. They
Mhm.
were favorites in 4A. They're definitely the favorites in 3A
Yeah, for
with their
sure.
size and skill. But,
Yeah,
one of the things that's been strange this season in Colorado basketball is it seems like Colorado has its own portal with a lot of players. There's been a lot of movement
yeah,
and it seems strange, but you're seeing different players now transferring from school A to school B. And what's your thought on that in general? Because I mean, I don't want to talk about or point out or single out any players, but
yeah.
just in general, that thought of that whole a kid transferring from school A to school B and then being allowed to play, and they're transferring into not like it's not like they're going down in programs, they're transferring into one of these top programs.
Yeah. It's hard. I don't really know because I think every situation is unique.
Yeah.
I think Shasta has a hard job of who they clear, who they don't clear, what are the reasons they're transferring. Um, at the end of the day, is it what's best? I look at it as is it what's best for the kid?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, yeah, we have a lot of adult decisions, we have all these policies and that kind of stuff, but is it truly what's best for the kid? Then albeit like go to, I mean, we're about kids. Now, if it's trying to beat the system and trying to do something like that, I don't
Yeah.
have any control over that. So I'll just
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, worry what happens here. But it is a tough landscape because I think with the college transfer portal and some other, like, I think now it's just like, oh, well, we can just go. And I think it's kind of trickling down to high school a little bit. So, um, yeah, so I don't know if I have a strong opinion about it, but it is
Right.
interesting. It is definitely interesting to see, and we'll see kind of who's where, I guess, where they show up this season. Because yeah, I've
That's
heard
right.
a lot of different things. So
Yep. That's right. No, Chris, this has been great. We are very excited for the season. I know that you guys are loaded. We're looking really forward to seeing you guys play. Um, Man, like I said, it was fun watching the kids this weekend at the grind session, scrimmaging against some other teams. Um,
thank you.
man, it's going to be an exciting season, and we wish you guys well, and we're looking forward to it.
I appreciate it. That means a lot. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Chris. You have a great day.
Thanks. You too.